Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. If you're wondering what all the stars are about, well, happy 4th of July, everyone. I was going to wear this hat to be patriotic, but it didn't go as well with the shirt. So today I have a very special guest. My friend Sharon McRae has been begging me to have her on for the longest time. We finally are connecting. She's all the way in England. You may know her as Broccoli Mom, and her name is Amy, and please welcome her to the show. That's such a great name, Broccoli Mom, because I love broccoli. I eat broccoli every day.
So do I. And that's really the thing. The veggie that got me into this way of eating was broccoli. I ate so much broccoli and I still do now. But yes, broccoli has to be in my name. I love it so much.
That's such a great name. I love it. That's fantastic. Well, you're going to make a recipe, but first, let's get to know you a little bit because maybe not all our viewers have seen you. You have a fabulous Instagram page. You're quirky, you're funny, you're adorable, you're pretty, but more importantly, you're smart because you understand something that I've been trying to teach people for years, the 2-word solution to weight loss. What is it?
It's calorie density, of course. The magic words.
It really is. It's a game changer, isn't it, Amy?
Oh, it really is. And I knew about the starch solution for a very long time before I was actually able to make this click. And it was when I found out specifically about calorie density and the magic of vegetables. That's when it all clicked in my head. I was like, oh my God, I just need to eat more vegetables. And it sounds so simple, but actually it's so, so powerful. And that's really all you need to do if you're wanting to move in the direction of getting lean.
It's so cool because, if people don't like vegetables, learn to like them. Dr. Furman always says, if you don't like vegetables, you better live close to a hospital, but not just for health. It's such a great thing that the food that's lowest in calorie density is the food that's highest in nutrient density. So you don't have to worry when you eat vegetables about your health or your weight, really.
No, it's the best of both worlds. And obviously, I was not a massive lover of vegetables when I first came to this way of eating. So it did take some adjustment. But obviously, you do have to adjust your palate. If you're used to junk food, then you have a plate of broccoli. It's not going to sound very exciting. But it's once you kick all of the junk, then the vegetables really start to come to life. And obviously, as you know, there's so many amazing things that you can do with vegetables. Although I am showing you some sweet recipes today, I wanted to show you what I'm having for dinner. I do obviously share a lot of sweet recipes, but it's like I said, it's the veggies that are so powerful and so important. So I wanted to show you my massive, gigantic Indian feast that I'm having this evening. And I wanted to show you how many veggies I managed to pack into here. So as you can see, this is a gigantic bowl. I am a volume eater and I need a heck of a lot of food in order to be satisfied. And that's really what got me into trouble when I was eating the junk food, because I was eating so much of it. So I piled on a pounds. But obviously, when you eat veggies, you can eat as much as you really want, as I know you're a volume eater as well. So in this gigantic bowl of food, I have got a mountain of cabbage. I've done a cabbage and cauliflower thoran, which is one of my favorite things at the moment. I've got tomatoes, I've got coriander, I've got some mango for a little pop of flavor, and some dal and some rice. So this is kind of like a typical meal that I would put together, which has all the volume. It obviously has the starch, it's got the lentil, it's got the rice, but it's the veggies that are the main event and the most powerful thing on this plate to get you lean.
That is a beautiful looking bowl. And I think everybody, when they're honest, is volume eaters. I know traditionally women think like, oh, it's not ladylike to eat large volumes of food, but that's because you're eating the wrong food.
Absolutely. And I see a lot of people who don't think they're volume eaters. They eat a small portion of food, but then the amount of snacks they have in between breakfast and lunch, in between lunch and dinner, because they weren't satisfied from that meal. So, you really do need to eat a really good amount of food when you're eating this way in order to be satisfied. I get a lot of people who are quite shocked about how much I eat because I post a lot of what I eat in a day on Instagram and on YouTube, of course. And so people are like, you can't actually eat that much food. I do eat that much food, and I think most people should be eating around this kind of level of food. Obviously, it depends on activity levels and all those kinds of things. And I am still a breastfeeding mum at the moment as well. But it really is that volume that is so magical because that's what keeps you satisfied.
Absolutely. So tell us about your weight loss journey. How heavy were you? How long did it take you to lose weight? How much weight did you end up losing?
So I've lost 60 pounds in total. Now I lost 40 pounds of it in 6 months. So I started my weight loss journey and then bang in the middle of COVID, when I was like, right, I need to make a change. And so, yeah, so the first 40 pounds came off really fast. Then I got pregnant with my little girl, who's now 1.5. So obviously I continue to eat mostly, all whole foods, but I did incorporate some more nuts and seeds into my diet. But really the difference in pregnancies eating junk food vegan and eating whole food vegan was just worlds apart. With my little boy, I gained so much weight. That's what really got me into trouble. I just ballooned because I was obviously very hungry, and I thought, eat for two. So I was really going for it. But the second time round with my little girl, I felt I barely gained anything. It was maybe like 5-6 pounds in my entire pregnancy, which I thought I was going to have to gain loads of weight, and I was so excited when I didn't. Again, it's the magic of whole plant foods. Even though I was incorporating more nuts and seeds and stuff like that. So obviously my little girl's now 1.5. So, over the course of maybe 6 months after she was born, I lost the rest of the weight. And I am quite lean. I would love to get a little bit fitter and get more activity into my life. As a busy mum of two, I find it quite hard to find the time to do those things. I do my best and I try and get them involved, which never really works out very well. But, I'm still on my journey, and I don't feel like you ever get to a point where you say, well, I don't know, maybe some people do, where you say, I'm done with my journey, that's it. I feel like we're constantly evolving, and we're learning as time goes on. We're learning about ourselves and, and how we eat. And I feel like for me, over the last few months specifically, I've really tried to focus on much more of the veggies, and that's been really helpful for me as well. So even through my weight loss journey up until now, I've still seen evolution, which is lovely.
That's fantastic. And you don't have to be pregnant to eat for two, because when you practice the principles of calorie density, every meal you get to eat for two, basically.
And that's what I love about this way of eating. It's so fantastic.
Yeah. Were you vegan before your weight loss journey?
So I'm actually a lifelong vegan. I've been vegan for my entire life.
My mom
is.
I did not know that. May I ask how old you are?
Yeah, so my mum decided to turn vegan when she was pregnant with me, actually. So I'm very lucky. Obviously, I was just born into this way of eating. I like to think I would have gone vegan eventually otherwise, but obviously I don't know. So yeah, so I was really lucky then. So all my siblings are vegan, my mum and my dad's vegan. So everyone around me is vegan, which I know that is not the case for a lot of people. And so I know I have it easy in that respect. But my husband wasn't always vegan. And when I met him, he was a massive meat eater. And over the course of time, he's obviously transitioned to being vegan, and now mostly whole foods as well. But yeah.
This is an incredible story, because you have like a sample of people that are vegan from birth. And that's amazing.
It is. It's a fantastic. I feel very, very privileged to have been born into being vegan, which obviously I know not a lot of people had 30 years ago. Now it's obviously becoming more common. Obviously, my kids are vegan, so that's lovely. But yeah, 30 years ago, my mom was very brave at the time, and not a lot of people were pleased with what she was actually doing. But it was fantastic. So I do owe it all down to her, really. But yeah, I guess the other interesting part of my story is I also grew up living around the world. So I spent 7 years of my life in Ethiopia from when I was 4 till 11. And then I also lived in India and Afghanistan as well. So I grew up all over the place. So if you're English, you'll realize my accent. I don't really have an accent. It's more of an international kind of accent. So obviously growing up abroad was fantastic. I obviously love it. And I really got to learn about incredible foods that are global. Ethiopia, I don't know whether you've ever had Ethiopian injera or...
I was just going to ask you if you know how to make that. I love it, because I love to eat with my hands, and in Ethiopian food, that's how you basically eat.
It's incredible. I love that you sit down together with one big plate and everyone kind of piles in, and it's just, yeah, it's amazing. So obviously in Ethiopia, they have like fasting days, which are fully vegan days, which is incredible. So I was very lucky, but the food is amazing because it's very simple food. It's not highly processed, same as a lot of food in India where I grew up as well. So it was really lovely being brought up around those very gorgeous but very simple foods. Really made me appreciate it. And actually going back to the injera, I am hoping to, I have a friend who's Ethiopian who's going to teach me how to make some injera. So I'd love to eventually do an Ethiopian weight loss cookbook and equally an Indian weight loss cookbook. Those are two things that are on my horizon, and I'm very excited about those.
Did you only first get excess weight after your pregnancy?
No, so I'll kind of take you through it a little bit. So obviously growing up in Ethiopia and India, where the food was a bit more simple, I was obviously a lot leaner. But what we would do is, and this was the trouble, every time we would come back to the UK for Christmases or summers or stuff, we were like, oh my God, let's indulge on everything. So we used to go crazy for the vegan ice cream and the vegan cheese. Obviously health wasn't really on my mind as a kid. So yeah, we used to really indulge when we would come back to the UK. And so every time I would come back to the UK, I would always gain weight. But obviously as a kid, I didn't really think about it. I didn't really care. And then go back to where we were living. And, it was kind of a cycle backwards and forwards for a while. And then obviously my mum also plays a lot into my journey as well. She was obviously very health conscious, and her and I did a lot of raw food when we were living in India as well. So I always have had health on my mind. And, you know, again, thanks to my mum. So that's really been wonderful. But it was when I came back to England to go to university that the trouble really started, because I was free from my parents. I didn't have any obligations. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't really know what to cook for myself properly. And so that's when it really hit. At university, I was eating all of the wrong things. That's when I met my partner as well, and he was really into going out to restaurants and all those kinds of things. So I remember I used to have like 2 tubs of ice cream for dinner. I mean, it's sickening to think about it now. But yeah, obviously, you know, when you're at uni, that's the kind of stuff you do, and obviously loads of alcohol and, you know, all those kinds of things. So I guess from there, it was almost a snowball. And I would do a lot of restricting during uni because I wasn't very happy with the way I looked. So I would kind of go up and down over the course of like 3 or 4 years of restricting, and then go, oh my God, this is too difficult. I can't eat small portions. And then I would just binge out for months again, you know, as most people do. You know, most people live their lives on that cycle, don't they? So yeah, so that was obviously not very fun, and I wish I knew what I knew now, to be honest. But everything in its own time. And then after I finished university, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. And then I actually went to India, back to India, to Oroville, to work with, and I think you know, Dr. Nandita Sharan.
Yes.
So
She has a regular slot on my show the 3rd Saturday of every month. You know her?
yes, I do. I know the show as well. Obviously, she's fantastic. Yes, I worked with her for a few weeks in Oroville, which was incredible. And that opened my eyes up to loads of incredible healthy eating. And that's actually where I learned how to make vegan cheese. So the next part of my story is I opened up my own vegan cheese business here in the UK. So I learned that from her down in Oroville. It was a fantastic time. So yeah, so I came back to England, and I decided I was going to open up my own vegan cheese company. So it was the first artisan cheese company in the UK, which I was very excited about. Obviously, still very young and jumped into it. So I was very, very busy. I was quite stressed. I was always on the go. And also I found myself, I would do a lot of vegan festivals where I was promoting and selling my cheese. But at those vegan festivals, you can't find anything healthy. So I ended up eating all of the wrong things every time I went to a festival, which was most weekends, to be honest. So I would try and be good in the week, and then the weekend came, I would go to a festival and then binge on, you know, 5 donuts at a time, and, you know, all of those things. And I really went for it. And then that went on for quite a long time, to be honest. So again, it wasn't a very healthy relationship with food, like most people don't have when they're incorporating junk food. How can you? So it was when I then got pregnant with my little boy, Abe, I really packed on the pounds. I was definitely chubbier before then, but it was during my pregnancy that I just went crazy. I remember my husband and I used to go to this vegan American diner place, and we would have ice cream and chips and 2 burgers each, and the cauliflower, and all vegan stuff. But vegan doesn't mean healthy, and vegan doesn't mean you're going to be lean, unfortunately. And I didn't have that in my brain at that time. I thought, you know, it's vegan, it's fine. But that's not necessarily the case. I mean, obviously it's great for the animals, but from a health point of view, not the best. So obviously when my little boy was born, I was the heaviest I'd ever been. I just felt so uncomfortable in my skin. I would hide away in big, dark, baggy t-shirts, and really my confidence completely dropped, and I almost didn't feel like I was my own person anymore. It's amazing how carrying excess weight on you is not just a physical thing, it's a mental and emotional thing as well. And it really gets to you. And so I would hide away, I wouldn't go out, I would be, you know, really nervous about meeting new people because of how I felt about myself. You know, it doesn't matter if you're big, but it's just how you feel about yourself a lot of the time. So that wasn't great. And then obviously COVID hit. And then it was in the middle of COVID. I was like, right, I need to make a change. I need to do this. And now is the perfect time, because we're not going anywhere. We're not seeing anybody. There are no restaurants. Everything's shut. So this is my perfect opportunity. Let me do some research, and let me make this work once and for all. So that is when like I said, I'd known about the starch solution for such a long time, but that's when I really found out about calorie density. I watched a lot of your videos, which is so helpful, just having the visuals of the calorie density. I really, really found that amazing, and some other people out there as well. And then that's when it clicked for me. I was like, oh my God, right now I actually understand it, because I had tried to do starch solution style eating before, but I didn't really understand the concept properly. I thought, potatoes, how does that work? And I would eat loads of potatoes, but then I would still feel really uncomfortable. And I was like, nah, potatoes don't work. But now obviously I know potatoes are some of the most incredible foods for weight loss on the planet. So the more the merrier. But yeah, so once I jumped into that, I went full steam ahead. I know some people do it gradually. I'd found the answer and I just wanted it now. So I jumped in and yeah, in the first 6 months, I lost 40 pounds. And then obviously I got pregnant, and then the rest of my journey continues. But I guess the real reason why I'm here is because at the start of my weight loss journey, there was nobody around me who was eating this way. And I really wanted to find a way of being accountable to something, to myself, or just something to help me along my journey. And it was the accountability that I found posting on Instagram that really helped kickstart my weight loss journey. So I recommend to a lot of people, if you're struggling to stay consistent, if you have the knowledge, but you're struggling to stay consistent, accountability, among loads of other things, is so important. And that's what I really found helpful. And so obviously me posting my meals on Instagram, it sounds so silly, but it made me add more veggies, add more color, add more fruit. And it made me, I wanted them to look beautiful. And I also wanted to share it with other people. So people kind of started following me and jumping on board, and obviously eventually it kind of unraveled to something that I'm just so lucky to call my job now, which is incredible. But yeah, so I think that's kind of my story.
That is fantastic. I can't get over you had a cheese shop. Do you still have it? Tell me that. I didn't know that you had that. That is really cool.
Yeah, so it's obviously something I was very passionate about for a long time, and it was obviously a vegan cheese company. Now, most cheeses in the UK, I don't know about in the States, they were very highly processed, full of oil and all that kind of rubbish. So I was obviously health conscious. So I knew I wanted to make something. Well, the reason I started it is because I wanted more people to go vegan. And when I was talking to people, cheese was the main thing they were struggling to give up. So I thought, okay, let me make them a yummy cheese. So that's why I kind of jumped into it. But yeah, so I made vegan cheese out of cashews. Obviously, fantastic whole foods. But as you know, obviously much higher in calorie density than people really need to be eating in a large quantity. So I would indulge in a lot of my own cheeses. They are very tasty, of course. But really, it was over the course of the last few years, obviously me changing my way of eating didn't really align with the cheese that I was producing anymore. I didn't want to eat it anymore. And although I thought it was a fantastic product and loads of people enjoyed it and it got people vegan, which is amazing, it just didn't align with how I wanted to eat and, the way I felt about food anymore. So it was actually about a month ago that I sold my vegan cheese business. And I was very excited to do that, to give it to somebody who really has a lot of passion for it, who can take it forwards and continue to make really amazing cheese, because that is great. But now I can focus on the foods that I actually, believe in now. And that's a lovely thing for me to have.
That is fantastic. It is hard to make really delicious cheese in low calorie density ways, isn't it? Because usually people, for the meltiness, they want that fat from the nuts or whatever.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I tended to use nuts. However, I'm so excited. I made a fat-free vegan mozzarella the other week, like a few weeks ago. And so it was incredible. My whole family loved it. And it was made with potatoes and rice. And yeah, I think that was about it. But it was like kind of melty on a pizza, and it stood its shape in terms of a mozzarella. So I was very excited. I guess the other main thing about me is I love getting creative in the kitchen. Not that you have to be creative in order to make incredible weight loss meals. I do eat a lot of simple foods a lot of the time, sweet potato and broccoli, all of those favorites. But I love that creativity. And I think that's kind of what I'm known for, is just being a bit wacky with food. One of my favorite things that I have on a regular basis is chickpea ice cream, which sounds crazy, but if you have it, you realize it's amazing. And I have a bit of a love affair with beans and chickpeas in general. And so I try and squeeze them into every single opportunity possible.
Do you have the same equipment available to you in the UK that maybe I have here, like the Nutri-Milk machine, the Ninja Creamy, the Instant Pot, the Breville air fryer? Have you heard of any of those pieces of equipment?
I think we can get all of those. I do have the Instant Pot, and I do have a very old and horrible air fryer, which still works fine. But no, in terms of the Ninja Creamy, I've seen those. Oh my God, I would love to get one. I don't even know if I can get one around here. I haven't really looked. I just use my crufty food processor, and with a bit of, shaking and a bit of work, it tends to do the job. But yes, one day I would love to get my hands on some amazing equipment like that. It'd be a game changer.
Well, it's nice that you're able to do it without it too. But when you mentioned chickpea ice cream, I'm thinking, boy, if she had a Ninja Creamy. The cheese sauce you mentioned, low calorie dense, is that recipe available on your Instagram channel or YouTube channel?
It is. I did it. So on my YouTube channel, I do try and share my recipes. I'm not organized enough to write them down underneath the videos, but I do try and share. I basically post what I eat every single day, mostly on Instagram, but definitely on YouTube. And the reason why I do that, although it sounds a little bit crazy to post what I eat every single day, is I want people to get a really good understanding of the day in, day out foods and day in, day out decisions that people go through whilst on their weight loss journey. Or, you know, I try and give, even though I'm not currently on my weight loss journey, I'm eating the same way as I did to lose weight, and that will never change. So the reason why I do the YouTube videos is because I would have loved, whilst I was losing weight, to watch somebody eat something every single day. Because a lot of YouTubers and a lot of people, you know, it's amazing to get inspiration, but you get a what I eat in a day every month. And, you know, maybe it's a special day, but you don't know what they're eating in between all of those days. They might just be having light salads. So, you know, it's hard to trust the process if you don't see what someone's eating every single day. So that's the reason why I do post consistently, is to really give people inspiration, especially, you know, the people who are very busy as well. Obviously, I've got a crazy life. If you've seen any of my videos, you know I've got kids in the background. It's a mess. My kitchen's messy and all that kind of stuff. So I want to show people how easy it can be when life is pretty crazy, like everyone's life is, and the day in, day out decisions that I make, you know, meal planning, food shopping, how I, you know, throw meals together on the fly when the kids are screaming, and all those kinds of things. That's the kind of stuff that I want to share on my YouTube. So although I don't have proper recipe videos with it all laid out, I do try and show every single recipe that I make over on YouTube, and that definitely is hiding in one of the videos somewhere. Although I will make a video properly about it soon, because I think it's a very exciting recipe.
Well, I think the fact that you're a real person and a busy mom, or mom, as you say, people can relate to you even more than if you know, didn't have that.
Yeah, I don't have that perfect kitchen and everyone smiling in the background, and, you know, I don't have any of that. And yeah, I think that's one of the things that people have enjoyed about my videos, is that it is real and it is messy. Even though, you know, I'm quite self-conscious sometimes, at least I was at the beginning, about putting myself out there when most people have that amazing kitchen. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have that.
Yeah.
But actually, I think that's a nice thing to share as well.
Well, the first 10 years that I was doing YouTube videos from my tiny apartment in Sherman Oaks, and people are always like, oh, your counter's dirty. Well, it wasn't dirty. I lived in an apartment. They wouldn't fix it. And people were just so critical. So keeping it real, you know, it didn't work for me back then, but maybe people are a little nicer now. But now I have a nice kitchen. It took a long time, though, to have a beautiful kitchen.
You have an amazing kitchen. I'm very jealous of that kitchen. One day I dream of a good kitchen like that.
I had to wait till I was in my 60s, but it is a lot nicer. So do you tend to repeat meals often that are your favorite, or eat something different breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day?
So this is a mixed bag kind of question. So I think because of the nature of what I currently do, I try and give people loads of fun, creative recipes. And that's kind of what I'm known for. So therefore, I am constantly thinking about new creations to share with people. So that definitely impacts what I eat on a daily basis. However, if I didn't do any sharing of fun recipes, I probably would eat very basic. We have about, you know, 7 meals that we have on rotation the majority of the week. We always have Indian, we always have a sushi, a big chili, you know, all those kinds of things. And, you know, a creamy cauliflower Alfredo pasta, we have those on rotation. But yeah, because I want to spice up my recipes and give people some fun content, that does impact things here and there. So I think it's a mixed question there.
Yeah. What is your favorite meal, if you have one?
Oh my gosh, that is such a tricky question. I think I'd probably keep it super simple. And really, I know that you're a lover of sweet potatoes as well. It would be sweet potato, banana, cinnamon, and some broccoli. Or I'm also just loving really fresh stuff at the moment. So loads of carrots and apples, and I love my oil-free hummus. So all of that in one bowl. My food doesn't often make sense. I kind of just throw it in a bowl. And as long as it tastes amazing and it's low calorie density, I'll eat it. I don't really conform to like breakfast, lunch, and dinner kinds of foods. I'll just eat whatever I want, whenever I want. So that's kind of the mishmash that I would really go for at the moment.
Do you eat at the same time every day, or just eat when you're hungry?
So I do tend to get hungry around about the same time every day, but I don't eat unless I'm hungry. And, you know, when I haven't really done a lot of coaching with people, but I have in the past, a year ago, I did some coaching, and I do always try to stress for people who are eating the starch solution and they're still having trouble getting some weight off, hunger fullness cues, I think, is so important. Obviously, you can switch around what you're eating in order for you to help your hunger fullness cues. So, you know, at the beginning of my weight loss journey, I was adding loads of maple syrup to my porridge and all of those kind of sweet cookies and all those kinds of things. So it's when you start to get rid of some of those scintillating taste bud kind of foods, maple syrup, and I'm working on salt at the moment. That's something I want to get rid of at some point, but I'm finding it tough. So once you get rid of those kinds of foods, it's so much easier to listen to your hunger fullness cues. And something that I do, which is I know what you do as well, is you start your day with veggies. And I think that is very powerful. So again, you know, like I said, it's an evolution, my weight loss journey. So at the beginning, I would always start my day with something sweet, you know, some kind of chocolate cake like I'm going to show you now. But as time's gone on, I realized I wasn't able to listen to my hunger fullness cues if I was starting with something sweet, because I always want something sweet. So it doesn't really make a difference. So when I start my day with veggies, that is very powerful, because I will only want the veggies when I'm truly hungry. And I recommend that that's what a lot of people do if they're struggling with their hunger fullness cues. Always ask yourself a question: are you ready to eat some veggies? In which case, go and eat some veggies.
Yeah, you know, I always say if you're not hungry enough to eat vegetables, you're probably not hungry, because, you know, even when you're full, when you're full, you can eat decadent desserts and things like that, but you can't eat vegetables when you're full. You have to use the hunger. That is why it's so good to eat them first, and always have, like, do you like the 50-50 plate, or do you like to eat them first, for example, or both maybe?
So I started with the 50-50 plate, and as I've transitioned, I now just have a massive bowl. Like, the bowls are getting bigger and bigger of veggies, just a massive bowl of veggies. And I call it my pre-breakfast snack, because I'll have something afterwards, obviously. But I just start with a big bowl of veggies. And I did initially, you know, force myself to eat veggies, obviously. Now I've got to the point where, probably like you, when you wake up craving veggies, because it's what you do every single morning. And when you have something as a habit, you wake up and you just need to do that thing. So if there's a morning and I've run out of veggies in the fridge, I'm like, oh my God, I've run out of veggies. I need to go to the shop quickly to buy some broccoli or something. So that's the really amazing thing. The longer that you're eating this way, obviously, the more you fall in love with veggies and simple foods.
Absolutely. Now, do you have a variety of sweet potato types in England, like we do in the United States, like the Japanese, the Murasaki, the Hana, you know, all the Hawaiian, or do you just have the orange ones?
No, we do not have much variety. Definitely not in the major supermarkets. We just have the orange ones. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the orange ones, but I do have this little Indian place where I can get, I think it's the Japanese sweet potatoes. Oh my gosh, they sometimes have them available. I go crazy for them. Honestly, I buy about, you know, a box full at a time, and it's gone within the week. And my kids eat it. Everyone loves it, because it's just the sweetness you get from a sweet potato. You don't need a maple syrup anymore when you're eating a sweet potato. But I do wish I had the variety that you guys have in the States. And one day I'll come over to the States and gorge myself on sweet potato.
Have you ever tasted the other varieties that I'm talking about, though?
No, I've never had a purple sweet potato. And then I don't know what your favorite one is. I think you said it wasn't the Japanese, it was the Hana.
The Hana, it's white inside and beige outside. It's so good. It's so good.
I dream of that. One day I would love to try some, but no, I haven't tried them yet.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it. What are your favorite vegetables to eat, or do you like to do them, you know, do different ones? And what's your favorite preparation method?
So my standard preparation method is just chop any veggies up, doesn't really matter what it is, and I put it in a pan with some frozen garlic, because I'm a bit lazy to chop my own garlic, so I buy frozen garlic, and then I do use soy sauce as well. So soy sauce, garlic, lid on, splash of water. I let that cook for 5 to 10 minutes, and then it's done. And that is perfect every single time. I have gotten into the habit of eating cabbage thoran, like I just showed you in my Indian meal, for breakfast, because it's just incredible. The flavors, it's got the mustard and the cumin and a little bit of toasted coconut, not loads, but just to give it like that little pop. And that is very special as well. I think one of my other favorite ways of doing veggies is I do crispy courgettes. You guys call it zucchini.
Zucchini, right.
Yeah. So I just chop it up, and I put loads of nutritional yeast and like a bit of salt, or just garlic salt or something, stick it in my air fryer. And honestly, it's like candy. I could just eat that for days.
I love that too. Are your kids picky eaters? Do they like your food? Because I always hear, oh, my kids won't eat this way. But I'm guessing if you were raised vegan, maybe your kids were too.
Yeah, so my kids were definitely raised vegan. So obviously that's a non-negotiable in our house. Everyone's vegan in our house. It's a vegan household. But it is really interesting to look at the difference between my two kids. Abe, who was my first child, who's nearly 5, I wasn't eating this way when he was born. And when he started eating food, I was still very much a junk food vegan. So it's incredible seeing the difference between him and Romy, who's now 1.5, who's been brought up on an abundance of vegetables. Basically, whatever I eat, she eats. So the other day I had a gigantic parsley salad, and she was shoving it in her face. And I was like, oh my God, look at this baby. It's incredible. But my little boy, Abe, although he does eat all whole foods, he won't do it in quite the same way, because he wasn't exposed at the very beginning. And now I'm hoping that does change with time. But it's really incredible to see the difference between the two kids, even though they're both vegan.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, which is why it's so hard for so many parents to change what the kids eat, because they weren't exposed to it during the pregnancy, they didn't raise the kid eating that way. So not shame or blame them, but it's good advice for people that are thinking of having kids to maybe change their diet first.
Absolutely. I mean, the other thing it goes without saying is, like you talk about, and everyone talks about all the time, is having that clean environment, and that's obviously goes with the kids as well. So my kids know if somebody's brought a cookie or something, they're going to ask for it, because my little boy was, he does have an occasional treat here and there, obviously vegan, but it's when those moments we don't have anything in the house, which is the majority of the time, they will mostly accept what I make. And obviously I do try to cater to them. They love having ice creams and stuff and all that kind of stuff. And, my little boy's getting into having more salads and, different things. So I think just a slow adjustment, have a meal. If anyone's struggling with that, have a meal that they already love and maybe add one little element to it. Or like sometimes I just put carrots on the side, even though I know he's not going to eat it, just the fact that he sees that there are carrots on the plate. If I do that again and again and again, occasionally he picks up a carrot and he has a few munches. And so I guess just being persistent, not giving in. Like sometimes if he says he's not hungry for the meal, I don't want to sound like a really cruel parent, but I say, okay, then you're not hungry. I treat him the way I would treat myself. And I just say, you're not hungry enough for this meal. That's fine. You don't have to eat it. But when you wake up in the morning, you're going to be having this meal again. And so in those moments, he eats it, So you also have to be a little bit persistent as a parent, which I know is quite hard for a lot of people, but it depends what you want for your kids. And I want them to eat, fresh, abundant stuff, and I want them to be really happy and healthy and have all of those things in their life. So for me, it's quite an important thing.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I mean, if they have an option to have something else like cereal or whatever, they're never going to eat the healthy food. So sometimes you got to practice a little tough love, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Does your family live near you? Your siblings and your parents?
My mum does live near me. We see her every kind of weekend. She's now, she's incredible. She has really spurred me on in terms of healthy eating. She eats SOS free, which is fantastic. She eats a lot of raw food at the moment. But yeah, so they live close by. And so obviously it's really nice when we get together, we can all bring food and we can share it. And that's just so beautiful. So finding a community in your area, if you can, of people who eat the same way is just going to be invaluable. Because, I used to spend a lot of my time going out to restaurants and wondering what else there is to do. But actually, if you've got people in your area who eat the same way as you, then, get together and have big buffets or potlucks or something like that is lovely. But the rest of my family my brother lives down in London with his wife. And my dad lives all the way in Dubai. So yeah, but my little sister who lives with my mom, she's just finished school. She's 16, and so she wants me to teach her this summer how to make food and how to eat this way, and she really wants to jump into this way of eating. And I think that's something so lovely when you can be the example for other people. Like I've already influenced, without even trying, so many people in my life. My cousin's eating more this way. My aunt is vegan now. She's trying to eat low calorie density stuff. My sister, my mom was using oil before I jumped into this way of eating. So, you can see the impact that you have. So when you change what you're eating, you're not just changing it for yourself, you're changing it for all your loved ones and your friends and family around you.
That's amazing. I would love to meet your mom. Do you think she'd come on the show? Because I would love to talk to somebody that raised their whole family vegan. You don't get that a lot,
you don't. I'll ask her, but I know that loads of people over on my YouTube are dying to chat to her as well. She's a very busy lady, but she's taking some time off to do a PhD this year. Into animal cruelty and stuff like that. So, but yes, she might have some time. I'm sure she'd love to. She's incredibly knowledgeable, and she just knows that she knows everything.
I would love to meet her if she has the time. I would love to have her on the show. She sounds like be a fabulous guest. So that really is. But it's cool that when you're with your family, like there's no conflict. What if holidays or gatherings, you don't have to worry about it because everybody eats pretty much the same way.
I know, I'm so lucky, and obviously not a lot of people have that. But I guess again, be the example, and hopefully, that will influence people over time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you're the one that taught her about oil, and you mentioned that you had the starch solution, but and the starch solution is a great book, and I adore Dr. McDougall, but my favorite Dr. McDougall book is the McDougall Program for Maximum Weight Loss, because that's what explains calorie density.
That is the magic, and that's what I didn't have. That was like my missing piece. I felt like I knew everything. I should have been doing it right, but it just wasn't working for me. Also, the staying consistent wasn't. I wasn't super consistent. So I think being consistent and just getting that junk fully out of your life. Although I know it's hard for some people and everyone has a different way of doing it. I found that so important because I was addicted to that food. And I don't think you can have a toe into addiction. You just have to say, I'm not doing it anymore. It's done. And then, you know, the other thing that you realize is how incredible the whole food plant-based stuff tastes when you do kick that stuff. So I know for me, that's what I've done. And that's what I would recommend to everyone, really. But yeah, absolutely. It's that 50-50 plate, getting in those veggies. That's so powerful.
Yeah, and it's like the longer you do it, it's like sometimes when I travel, I can't always get as much vegetable material as I want, as often as I want. And when I eat, and I don't have a problem eating more starch when I travel. It's not like it affects my weight, but like I actually miss the veggies when I don't get them.
Oh, absolutely. We went traveling in India for my brother's wedding last year, and we were traveling for like 3 weeks, and there was loads of fruit and stuff, but I found it so hard to get the veggies, especially the quantity of veggies that I need. When we sit down at a table, there was a small pile of veggies for everyone to share, and I was like, oh my God, I would eat 3 times that amount just me.
I know that's the thing. It's so funny because, you know, when they serve vegetables in a restaurant, at least here in the United States, like a side of asparagus will be like, you know, 6 spears. 6 spears, you know, like a pound. A serving is a pound, people.
Oh, it's so sad, and I'm hoping that it changes over the course of time. But I mean, junk food is a real thing, and I mean, I just don't go out to eat ever because there are no restaurants in my area that will cater to anything. Maybe I could get a plain bowl of rice. Sometimes I go to a sushi place, and that's the best I've got, you know, or a plain baked potato. But there's nothing else that would cater to me. I'm sure there's probably more in your area where you can actually go to, but I would love to have that one day near me, but I don't know whether that's coming anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you come here, I'll take you to all the vegan restaurants. There's 6 of them,
Oh,
free, and you can get big piles of food. They know that we eat a lot, so that's cool.
I would be in heaven. That's my dream. We're going to plan a trip to America one day in the future, and maybe when my kids are a bit older, so they're not too crazy.
And when you're ready to take them to Disneyland, that's when you come.
Yeah.
Do you have Disneyland in England? I don't think so. Do you?
No, I think there is one in France.
In France.
There's a Disneyland in France, but I've never been there, to be honest, because my kids are still quite small, and I don't know whether they'd appreciate it properly yet.
Absolutely. What are their favorite foods?
Oh, well, Abe is addicted to cucumber. He loves cucumber with a passion. He could eat 2 gigantic cucumbers a day. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, can a guy have too much cucumber? I don't know. He also loves frozen fruit. He's really into it at the moment. So he'll just go into the freezer and snack on frozen mango and frozen berries and all that kind of stuff. And I let him have free access to that because I'm like, that's the most incredible stuff you could be eating. So go for it. They're both also addicted to oranges at the moment. And I know these are obviously really simple foods. And actually, sometimes I find it really interesting. Sometimes I'll go out of my way to make a fun recipe for them, like a chocolate cake that I'm going to make now, or, you know, some muffins or something. And they do like that. But if I put it on a plate with loads of fresh stuff, like loads of fruit and cucumber stuff, they will always eat the fresh stuff first. That's what their bodies are telling them that they want. And then they'll move on to it, maybe have a few bites of the cake. But it's really interesting that the stuff they crave is the simple stuff. And I love that.
That's fantastic. I love it. And do you keep any junk food in your house for either for you or the kids?
I guess it depends what you mean by junk food. I mean, we do eat pasta, so obviously that's more of a processed food.
Think of that. No, I don't think of pasta as junk food at all. I mean, you know, like chips, like potato chips, and
oh God, my kids don't even know what that is. I mean, that's an alien food to them, really. I do have chocolate chips that I used to put in the muffins and in all of those kinds of things, but I really stopped doing that as of this year, to be honest, or maybe a few months ago. I was like, you know what? If I wouldn't give it to myself, why would I want to give it to my kids? Although I can see it as, oh, I'm giving them a nice treat by putting those chocolate chips in. Am I giving them a treat? Like, that's a really twisted mindset if I wouldn't give myself that treat. So I'm not going to give it to them. So I've stopped using that. So I've got some in the cupboard pushed at the back that I just haven't used in ages. But no, we don't have any junk food in our house at all. My husband does occasionally bring in like, he is mostly whole food, plant-based. He's fully vegan, but he also does like a junk food here and there. When he's out and about, he works out a lot, so he has food at restaurants and stuff. So occasionally he'll bring back some, you know, vegan chicken pieces and put it in the freezer. But that doesn't tempt me, and the kids aren't interested, so it's fine.
Right. Well, you know my motto: if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. You know.
That's true, absolutely. And if it was something that I used to be addicted to and that I really craved, I would ask him to get it out of the house for sure. But because it's something that I don't even think about anymore, it's almost like it's I wouldn't have it in the same way that I wouldn't have something non-vegan and not for ethical, just because I just wouldn't even think about it now. So I don't mind them having it here. But yeah, if people are at the beginning of their journey, absolutely, you've got to have it out. And I know people find that really tricky with their spouses, because obviously, some people cook for their spouse as well, and they have to cook all of the junk food stuff and then try and make themselves food. I'm like, that is an impossible situation.
It's like being an alcoholic bartender. I mean, a bartender is an alcoholic that is trying to get sober. It generally is a disaster. I can't eat chocolate. I haven't eaten it in 13 years now because it gives me migraines. But now they have chocolate chips. They didn't used to have these a long time ago that have absolutely no sugar. They're just the chocolate. And now they have a brand here that's actually sweetened with dates.
Do they?
Yeah, it's called Who. I'm writing a dessert cookbook right now, so I know this. HU, and it's a date sweetened chocolate chip. And they have one that has no sweetener. So that's kind of cool.
That is amazing. Well, I would definitely give my kids that on occasion if I had access to such cool things. I'm always so jealous of you guys in the States. You have things about, 10 years before, and then it trickles into the UK eventually.
Yeah. So if we're before you, then that means that obesity is probably trickling into the UK now too.
Oh, it's ridiculous. We just went to the beach today and have a fun beach day. And when you look around, it's really sad. Most people are really, overweight. And obviously, it doesn't matter about how they look. That's totally irrelevant. It's all about how their health.
Yeah.
People on this journey, I started in order to lose weight, in order to get lean, specifically the physical aspect of things and how I felt. But I think the longer you go on this journey, you stick with it for health purposes. And when people are kind of on their journey, I always say, try and find your reason why, and eventually your reason why will be health, and then you'll have to eat the healthiest food possible. So yeah.
I'm curious because all your family grew up vegan. Were you guys pretty healthy growing up? I'm guessing you probably didn't get sick a lot.
Oh no, we barely ever got sick. I mean, I don't think we went to a hospital for years and years and years. I mean, we never had anything. And like I said, the majority of the time growing up, my mum's always been very health conscious, of course. So we did have extremely healthy foods, but it was those times when we came back to the UK with those indulgent periods. And obviously, like any parent, you want to treat your kid and stuff like that. And my mum was also learning. She's been on an evolution and a journey herself as well, of ups and downs. And so, yeah, but obviously it was when I had pure freedom all to myself that things got out of hand.
Wow. That's really, what an amazing story you have. I'm just so impressed with the way you were raised and the way you're raising your kids. That is just so cool. Oh, did you know that this was going to be your job one day, doing what you're doing?
No, not at all. I mean, I was very, I was a vegan cheese maker. And so I thought that's what I was going to be doing for such a long time. And it was really a very strange transition for me, especially the last year or so, as what I'm doing now started to build more of a gathering, and people, I wasn't really going to turn this into anything. I was just going to keep it as me posting some recipes, but people, were asking for recipes, and they were asking for meal plans. They're like, I want to follow what you do. Have you got any meal plans? I'm like, no, why would I have any meal plans? So I got bombarded with requests for meal plans. And it's not something I was going to think about, but that's why I started writing them, just for people who really wanted to follow this way of eating, who didn't know how to do it. They wanted the shopping list and they wanted everything, just easy access. And so that's what I currently do, is I make people meal plans. So I've got 4 so far. I've got a potato reset one and 3 just normal whole food maximum weight loss ones. But I really would love to move into the coaching area and really try and help people. I get messages every single day saying, I want some help. I need some accountability, and I want some hand holding through the beginning of this process because I'm finding it hard. And I would love to be able to help people out. I really struggle with time management as a full-time mum. My little girl's 1.5, so I have her all day, every day. And she's not an easy kid. She screams a lot. Yeah. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that. So
you're keeping it real. You're keeping it real. Did you know that in the UK, there's this organization of wonderful plant-based doctors called UK Health Professionals? I had a whole week devoted to them and had all of them on the show. They're amazing.
No, I don't know about them at all. I'm going to go and find out about them right now.
Yeah, I did sometimes I do theme weeks, like I did one for all the doctors in India for the Indian College of Lifestyle Medicine. And they're fabulous. Sue Keneally, I can't think of all their names, Shireen Kassam. They're amazing. You might want to check them out. They're doctors, they're dietitians, and they're all in the UK, and they have this wonderful organization.
Fantastic. No, I didn't know anything about that. I'm going to go research them as soon as this call is over.
Yeah. Funny, you're hearing about it from an American, but anyway.
You know everything though.
Yeah, well, I've just been doing it a lot longer. So you're going to make a recipe now. I'm so excited. It's probably low calorie density, knowing your teachings. So
It is low calorie density foods. Obviously, it's not low calorie density compared to veggies and broccoli. So when I have a contrast of, I want people to eat loads and loads of veggies, but I also want them to enjoy their food. So these are the kinds of things I make for people when they're wanting really fun foods. And these are the kinds of recipes that I'm known for. And I asked what people wanted to see, and people really wanted to see these two recipes. So I said, why not? Let's go for it. So there's two recipes that I want to share with you today. And the first one is the chocolate cake. I'm a very lazy person, so this is a very quick and easy, blend it, kind of stick it in the microwave chocolate cake. And the second one is my absolute favorite sweet potato pudding, chocolate pudding, which I kind of whipped together when I was doing my potato reset a little while ago. And so I'll share those recipes with you now. So let's get started. I'm very organized today, unlike my usual self, and I have all the ingredients here, so that is great. So I have got 1 cup of oats. In they go. And now, I mentioned, obviously, I love beans. I find beans are some of the most, along with potatoes, obviously, beans are just so satisfying and satiating, and they keep me full for such a long time. So when people are struggling with eating this way and not feeling satisfied, I always get them to add beans into smoothies, into cakes, into, oatmeal, whatever they're having. I say always add some beans. And so I'm doing half a cup of chickpeas in there as well. I have got half a cup of water. Now, you could do full water for this recipe, but I do feel like plant milk gives it a really nice flavor and consistency. So I'm going to go with half a cup of plant milk as well. I tend to opt for the lowest calorie density plant milk, although you could really go for any. This one's just soya with soybeans and water, which I find quite good. Then I'm going to go in with some vanilla, obviously. This is one of my favorite things that I used to have for breakfast on my weight loss journey. So this one's kind of really dear to my heart, and I do loads of different versions of it. I do a peanut butter version with some PB2 powder, which I know is not strictly whole foods, and that's actually an addiction that I'm trying to kick at the moment, is the PB2 powder.
It's a process.
It is a process. And I think, as you evolve all the time, you just have to kind of go with what your body's telling you in that moment. If you're wanting to kind of, keep moving. Now I'm moving towards health and less about weight loss. So it's really giving me a different vision of, what I wanted to include, because you can still include some junkier foods and still be healthy, but, and still be lean. But when you want to be healthy, that's when you really start getting into the nitty-gritty of things, I think. So I did 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I'm going in with 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. So is it the cocoa powder that you're not able to have for the migraine?
It's any chocolate. It's so funny because everyone loves chocolate, right? And I was actually producing a conference. It was, I remember, November 8th, 2010, the last time I had chocolate. And Chef Eric Lechester made the most delicious truffles to die for. And I ate one early in the day, and I had like the worst migraine. And my insurance company then wasn't even paying for the medicine I needed. It was really expensive. And I didn't know there was any connection with food and migraines. And it's funny because I was volunteering at a senior center dealing poker, and this new resident was this well-known immunologist from the hospital. And the residents were eating See's candy, and they offered me a piece. And I said, I'm afraid to eat it. It seems like every time I eat chocolate, I get a migraine. And this guy explained it to me, and I went to an immunologist and I got tested. And, I never had it's sad, but it's good that I never had another migraine again, as long as I don't. So I can have carob, I can put carob powder in, but chocolate, man, it's not worth it. If you ever had a migraine, that no matter how good a food tastes, it's just not worth it.
No, and I've actually never had a migraine, so I don't even know what that feels like.
It's like, oh God, I wish you never, I can't even, it's like the worst headache in the world. I can't even explain how bad it is. I'm guessing it's probably almost as bad as childbirth, but I've never had childbirth, so I can't compare.
I bet it probably is, absolutely. But yeah, no, it's great that you found the root of the issue and you managed to kick it in the butt when you could.
But it wasn't easy, because I had chocolate every day. in a vegan way, and made it hard because I'm writing this dessert cookbook, and I had to pretty much stop creating chocolate recipes because I couldn't taste them anymore. So luckily, I created a lot of my best work before this happened, thank goodness. But yeah, but it's not the end of the world. The point is there's other good things to eat, even when you can't have that.
I actually love being restricted sometimes. Like when I did a potato reset, I found myself getting my most creative because I was restricted to a certain food. I was like, okay, what can I do with this? And I actually went through a period of time where I stopped having cocoa powder, and I also switched to carob. But it was like drinks. I would have carob as in like almost like a coffee with a splash of soy milk, and I really enjoyed that for a while. But yeah, I guess my drink story is, I guess, something maybe of interest, but I don't know. I'm going in with one banana, by the way, and a tablespoon of flax. But yeah, I've stopped having all teas and coffees. Now, if you're in the UK, you know that people in the UK are addicted to tea. We can't stop drinking tea. We love tea so much. And so, like I said, you know, the evolution. So it's taken me the last 6 months to stop drinking tea because I was feeling really dehydrated. Then I switched to drinking carob, which I was enjoying, but then I couldn't really have too much carob. And then it was just last week, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I need warm drinks anymore. I'm going to stop having those kinds of drinks because they're not serving me. I wasn't enjoying them in quite the same way. I was just addicted to the feeling of having a warm, snuggly drink. And it was actually really difficult. So now I'm like a week and a half into having no warm drinks, just water. I'll have warm water. But I found that such an interesting experience because it's almost like weaning myself off junk food again, but with tea and with warm drinks. And I found that fascinating. But, you know, a week and a half later, I wouldn't even think about tea. And now I'm happy with water. So it's amazing the evolution that you can have even down your journey.
You know, it's interesting, Amy, because like it just to me, like addiction is addiction. And I don't like that feeling of having to have anything because I used to be addicted to Coke. I don't know if you've ever heard of a Coke Slurpee. Do you have 7-Eleven? It's a
Oh, we don't have that, but I think I can imagine.
It's like a chilled beverage that's like basically just sugar and chemicals, but it's nice and cold. Nice to drink those every day for breakfast till I was 43. And the point is, you know, I don't like that feeling of having to have something. And caffeine is just a highly addictive drug. It's a central nervous system stimulant. And people argue that it has health benefits. But the reality is my feeling is if you can't go a day, a meal, or, you know, without something, you know, maybe you got to look at it as an addiction. And that's and there's some evidence that, especially for people that struggle with weight and food addiction, that caffeine is not your friend. There's a physician in the United States, a plant-based physician, Dr. Linda Carney, that did an amazing talk on the Truth About Weight Loss Summit about 17 reasons that caffeine makes it harder for people to lose weight. So there's all kinds of things. But as far as a warm beverage, I have a warm beverage every morning, but what it is we call it pot liquor. So my husband eats vegetables for breakfast too, not because he's never had a weight problem, but he always feels that if he doesn't eat them first, he doesn't eat enough vegetables, because once he eats his oatmeal or whatever, you know, it's hard to go back to vegetables. So when I cook his greens, I have the leftover broth, and it's really yummy. It's called
That's
pot.
amazing. I mean, did you just jump into that straight away, or was that a bit of evolution to you for you getting to that point? Or because that sounds amazing.
Like most people, especially now that I live in a colder climate, I like a warm beverage in the morning. And since I didn't drink coffee and I didn't drink tea, it's not, I'll drink herbal tea. I'm like, you know, I don't know how I ended up tasting it. And I'm like, hey, you know, this is pretty good. And there was so much left over. And I didn't know it was called pot liquor. It was just broth. And when I spoke at the Veg Fest in New Orleans, I go, oh yeah, that's a thing. We call that pot liquor. And I'm like, well, I love it. And it's fun. It's fun because I feel like, well, I drink liquor every morning.
That's amazing. I love that. You know what? I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning and I'm gonna try and drink that. You just like saute it in some water, like boil it?
So I'm cooking his greens in an Instant Pot. It's actually something called, I know you don't have this in the UK, and I always tell people, if you don't have this store near you, move. But we have a store called Trader Joe's. Have you ever heard of it? It's like the best.
Yeah, I would love to.
It's the best store. So he loves to eat something called cruciferous crunch, and you can make it yourself. But what he loves about it, it's finely shredded Brussels sprouts, broccoli, purple cabbage, white cabbage. There's 5 things in it. I can't remember. And broccoli. Well, I can't, there's 5 things. And so I cook it in the pot, and I put in, like, when I'm out of town, he just cooks it with like enough water to cook it like a half a cup, and there's no pot liquor. So I cook it with 3 cups of water, and then I drain it out and give him his vegetables. And then I have, you know, a little 27-ounce little hot thermos full of it. And he always says, you're stealing my nutrients. Don't do that. But I do it every day because it's yummy. So it's broth, you know, because why throw it out, you know?
I never even thought about that before. That's you know what? I am going to wake up tomorrow morning and I'm going to have myself some pot liquor. That is, yes, I'm going to do that. That sounds great.
You can even make a video about it. It's a real thing.
I will. Yes, I definitely will. I'll tag you if I do. I'm excited to try that.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, things are going to get a little bit noisy because I just need to put my blender on. So I think that's everything.
Okay.
Make sure I've got it all in there. Yep, everything in there. Right, so I'm just going to blend this up. So sorry about the noise.
That looks so creamy and decadent.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, sometimes I just eat it like this and I just call it blended oats, like blended oatmeal. And that's one of my favorite things. If I do oatmeal, I always put beans in. And so I did an amazing tropical blended oatmeal the other day with frozen pineapple and frozen mango and like some ginger. Oh my God, it was very special. It was very good. But yeah, it's a really fantastic consistency. You could eat it like this, or you could store it in the fridge so it goes a little bit firmer and have it almost like a kind of pudding or something. I also love mixing it up. I do often make this same recipe, but with different grains as well. So I'll do cooked millet or quinoa or barley or, you know, all of that kind of stuff. But I really love to try and mix it up and get some variety in there as well.
So if you use millet, do you cook it first?
Yeah, I cook the millet and then I just use it in replacement of the oats, or maybe I'll do like a 50-50 split with the oats, and it's yummy. I love it. Sometimes I challenge myself because I've got loads of grains and beans in my kitchen. So I'm like, okay, this week I'm going to use mung beans. So I try and get creative with mung beans and see what I can do. Yeah, I don't know whether you have ever made like loads of wraps out of like lentils and beans and stuff, but my newest favorite creation is I just soak chickpeas, blend it up with water, and it's an incredible wrap. And I was like, oh wow, I got really excited when I made that.
So
yeah, you can do.
Are you cooking it after you blend it? That is cool.
Yeah, so I just I have one of these really cool things. People always ask me about this one. It's just a great non-stick pan. I get it on Amazon. And so yeah, so I soak the chickpeas, blend it with water, and then I turn it into wraps on a great non-stick pan. And then I just make a big batch and I stick it in the fridge. And then I do tacos, or I do breakfast burritos, or whatever you want, really.
Nice. That's cool.
So I'm going to stick this in the microwave. Like I said, I'm lazy. You could obviously do the oven version, but I go microwave sometimes. So I'm going to put it in for about 6 minutes and then just check on the consistency and see. You can either have it softer or you can have it much more cakey, in which case we'll probably go for like 9 minutes, but I'll do 6 minutes for this. Are most of your videos this noisy? Because I feel like I've had the blender on and the microwave on. It must be very noisy. So I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Okay. Zoom muted it anyway.
Fantastic. So I'm not going to clean my blender because I'm a messy person. I don't want to waste the time. So I'll jump in and I'll just do the sweet potato pudding recipe. It's literally the most simple recipe you can ever imagine. And when I don't know, I'm sure people have been making this recipe before me, but when I created it for myself and I shared it, people got very excited about this one, and I had people eating it for days. I still get messages every day about this recipe. So it's definitely one of my favorites. Incredible. Like, it feels like such a luxurious treat to have, but it's potatoes, so it's the best of every world. So I obviously eat a lot of sweet potatoes. So I bake them in the oven for 1 to 2 hours, depending on how big they are, and you want them super, super squishy, really, really sweet. Otherwise, you don't get that lovely caramelization.
Right. I agree with you, Amy. People don't realize, there's nothing wrong with steaming or microwaving potatoes occasionally, but if you want them for desserts, you have to roast them.
Yes, you've got to, and the flavor is completely different. My kids love the sweet potato caramel that you get when you roast the potatoes in the oven, and the gooey bits. So they have that as their special treat as they come and have the sweet potato caramel, which I love. So right, so one big fat sweet potato. I'm just going to wash my hands. I'm so sorry. 1 sec.
It's quite all right.
Okay, so the rest of the recipe is again super simple. So I'm going in with a bit of vanilla. I use a lot of vanilla, and I actually love the vanilla that you use, because you use an alcohol-free vanilla, don't you?
Right, alcohol-free. And now my thing is vanilla powder.
Oh, really? So I need to get I don't know if we can get that in the UK. I might have to look on Amazon to get some special stuff, but I would love to use that.
It's just vanilla beans that have been ground, and it gives such a robust, like, true vanilla flavor. It's just, you'll fall in love with it, and then you'll go, yeah.
Because you can taste it if it has other stuff in it, which I'm not a massive fan on, but right. I can't find anything else acceptably. So that's just what I go for. So.
Oh, sorry. I just forgot to ask you when we were talking about your weight loss journey. What did friends and family say about your weight loss? Did they noticed, I hope?
So they did initially. I mean, it's always funny when you try something new. Whilst I was still heavy and eating this way and obviously losing weight, I got a lot of comments about the quantity of food that I was eating. They're like, oh my God, are you actually going to eat that much food? And because I was still overweight, people just thought I was a very greedy person. And they were like, whoa, I can't believe you're eating that much. And you're trying to get lean in the process. That is just not going to work. That was, from a lot of friends, but also, my husband's family, they're still very, standard American or standard UK diet. And so they were very confused about what I was doing. But showing them over the course of time that I have lost a massive amount of weight whilst eating that much food, they are actually stunned. And they've tried to incorporate a few, they've not done a complete swap, but they always try and add more veggies in now because of that. And that's really amazing. But yeah, they still always comment on the quantity of food I'm eating. And they're just flabbergasted by how much I can eat, how much I can put away, and the fact that I can get lean doing so. Because most people, they just have a small little sandwich filled with calories, but it's very tiny. And, they're like, I'm just having a sandwich, so why am I so overweight? And I feel really sad for people. But, I do think sometimes people aren't ready to hear, all of these facts, and sometimes they are. So I find that tricky sometimes. But yeah, like I said before, my aunt and my cousin and my little sister and my mum, loads of other people, friends and people in my life have jumped on board with eating a lot more like this, because I've obviously inspired them to do so. And that's really lovely that I'm, helping them on their, weight loss journey is great, but more so on their health journey.
That's cool. Hey, before you sold your cheese shop, did you write down the recipes and make a book of it?
No, I didn't. I mean, obviously, I sold that to somebody who now wants those recipes as their secrets, so that they can continue to sell it. However, obviously, cashew cheese is not a surprise. It's everywhere. You guys have Miyoko and Kitetail and all those amazing places, companies in the States. So it's very much the same kind of stuff. My stuff's been compared to Miyoko's all the time by people who have tried both. So it's very, very similar stuff.
Wow, that's amazing. What was it called, your cheese shop, when you had it?
So it's called Tyne Cheese. So we live in Newcastle on the River Tyne. So it's Tyne. And then we had to spell it differently. So it's Chease. So Tyne Cheese. But they're still selling. So if anyone's in the UK and they want to check it out, feel free to go for it. We've got vegan camembert, there's vegan camembert and vegan blue cheese and stuff. And I'm actually still in the process of helping them create some recipes. So I'm creating a butter for them and a mozzarella. And I also found some incredible vegan charcuterie meats, but they're oil free, as whole food as I could get them. I was going to launch this last year when I realized I didn't want to go in this direction anymore. But I did a lovely mushroom one and a chorizo one and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to give them those recipes. So hopefully they'll have that coming out in the future. But I might share those recipes because they're quite exciting for people who do miss that vegan meat, but they also want it to be healthier without all the oil, because vegan meats are just so full of junk at the moment. So I wanted to find a healthy alternative for people.
It's amazing. Wow, you've done a lot in your life so far for veganism.
Oh, well, time just flies by, but I guess as long as you're doing the stuff that you're passionate about, then that kind of carries you forwards. And I'm very passionate about food, and I always have been. I knew I was always going to go into something food related, so here I am.
That is so cool.
So in here I've got a big baked sweet potato, and I've got some vanilla and 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder as well. And I'm just going in with half a cup of plant milk, just trying to get that going. Again, this is going to be a noisy one, so I'm sorry about that. I do often love to add beans into this as well, in order for people to get more beans into their life. So, if you wanted to add half a cup or a cup of chickpeas into here, you could. You could also add some banana if you love that banana-y flavor, or, a few peppermint drops. Or I was addicted to marzipan flavor, so I had some almond extract that I was putting in loads of stuff. So you could put that in there if you wanted to as well. So I'm just going to give this a quick blend.
I love marzipan a long time ago. It was so sickly sweet to me. And now it would be, I think, but I used to love marzipan.
Oh, it's amazing. I've just come out with a new meal plan yesterday, actually. And it has my healthy marzipan in that recipe, in the book, because I love marzipan, and it's made using beans. So it's a chickpea recipe. Obviously there's dates in it. I am yet to find a way of not including so many dates in sweet stuff. Most often I will use sweet potato or banana, but I struggled with that one. But it's very, very delicious. And for anyone who wants a nice fun treat, then yeah, they can check it out.
That sounds very creative.
But right, I'll give this a quick blend. Bear with me a moment. I think this was an extra big sweet potato, so I think it just needs a little bit more cocoa powder. So bear with me a moment. I actually need to invest in a new blender because this blender is thoroughly rubbish and it's dying on me. So I think I need to add some more plant milk just to kind of get it
Just
moving.
to get it to go.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, one day I will buy myself a lovely Vitamix. Is that the kind of blender that you have, I'm assuming?
I have the Vitamix, but you know, there's one called Blendtec that I tend to use more, but they're all high-powered blenders are great. It just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it really does, for ice creams and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay, there you go. So this is fantastic. I love this one specifically because obviously there's no sweetener in here at all, aside from sweet potato, and it's incredible. Chocolate pudding, and it firms up a little bit when you put it in the fridge. And I just, I was eating this for days when I was on my potato reset, and it's very, very yummy, I must say.
That looks amazing. And we could put carob powder in if we can't have chocolate. No reason we couldn't.
Absolutely. And I did put carob powder in for a long time. My little boy does not love carob powder. Otherwise, I would have used it. And he's going to be eating this for his pudding tonight. So right. If I used it, he wouldn't eat it. He would have rejected it.
Right. You know, I find that roasted carob powder tastes better to many people than the raw. It just, it has, I don't know, maybe the roasting makes a difference.
Oh, really? Oh, I don't know what kind of carob I have, but I'll definitely look into that because, I mean, obviously it does have a very distinctive flavor.
It does. You know, I don't think carob is a true chocolate substitute, but it's good on its own if you like it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. My little girl loves it, and I go crazy for it. I was having a lot of carob for a while. So I put the cake on for an extra couple of minutes just because it was a little bit soft in the middle. So probably a total of about 8 minutes.
I mean, unless you told somebody that it had a sweet potato in it, I don't think they would ever know.
Oh no, people have no idea. I mean, my little boy at the beginning didn't have a clue what was in here. I mean, I've become very good at sneaking different foods into recipes without my kids knowing about it. So I do obviously want them to understand what they're eating. So I always tell them eventually, but just because I don't want them to get freaked out initially, I just like to put it in there. So I'll put frozen cauliflower in their smoothies, and I'll put carrots in things, and I'll put zucchini in things, and beans especially. My little boy Abe hates beans, which is why I get so creative with beans, and I put beans into muffins and cakes and, you know, smoothies and ice creams and all that kind of stuff, to get him some more beans in. So because of that, that has made me very creative in the kitchen. Maybe
you could write a book called Sneaky Treats.
Oh, you know what? That would be such a great idea. I love that. I was thinking about, I have so many ambitions and so many dreams. I would love to do a book for each grain and each bean, because I feel like each one deserves its own, like, you know, pedestal. And I love grains and beans so much. Obviously veggies, of course, but I feel like there's so much you can do in terms of wraps and cakes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I have a lot of things that I want to do, but my next thing I'm going to work on is definitely my Indian cookbook, which I've been promising people for a while and I just haven't had a chance to work on yet. But my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, she is from down south in India, from Kerala, and she is an incredible cook, and she's actually somebody else who I've influenced who's eating this way now as well, which is amazing. So she's mostly vegan and she eats a lot of this stuff. So her and I are going to come together and we're going to create the best North Indian and South Indian cookbooks. I don't know if you've ever had South Indian food. It's a completely different ball game. It's incredible. And a lot of it is oil-free naturally, and obviously most of it's vegetarian naturally. So I'm very, very excited about those books at some point.
I think it's so cool that you know Dr. Nandita Shah. She's amazing. So next time I talk to her, I'm going to tell her that I had you on the show.
I don't know if she's going to remember me. I was only with her for a few weeks, and this was like 2011, 2012, and I'm sure she sees loads of people. But yeah, my mum recommended her, and then yeah, I went and just did a little internship with her and helped her out, and it worked at some of the markets and stuff, and it was really an incredible experience. And like I said, that led me down my route to opening my vegan cheese company because of her inspiration, and just understanding healthy food in a different way was really lovely as well. So so yeah, no, she's an incredible lady like yourself. Absolutely.
Wow.
So so the cake is ready. So here I've got my chocolate cake. I kind of like it where it's a little bit kind of squidgy in the middle, kind of, so it's almost like a pudding cake. But the thing that I love to do is I love to put my chocolate pudding onto the cake and I turn it into frosting.
That's incredible.
When people say, oh, it's so boring when you want to lose weight, you just have to eat, you know, rabbit food all the time, I say, well, obviously, yes, you can eat loads of veggies and you should eat loads of veggies, but also don't think that food has to be boring. I want people to get really excited about their food, because I'm a foodie, I'm a massive foodie, and I want to love the food that I'm eating. So I love my veggies, but equally, I found a way to make really healthy alternatives to the foods that I used to love, and it helps other people eat this way around me as well, my kids and my husband, all that kind of stuff. So when I say, here's some chocolate cake and frosting for breakfast to my kids, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky, this is amazing, nobody else gets to have this, and it's all healthy. And so that's why I do it, and that's why I love it.
Incredible. Sneaky sweets and treats. Thank you so much. You're just such a pleasure to talk to. We think we speak the same language, calorie density without deprivation.
Oh, I've really enjoyed chatting to you, Chef AJ. I think you're just such a fantastic person, and thank you so much for having me on this show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Amy. And if people want to follow you, where's the best place? We'll have everything in the show notes, but where do you like to tell people to go?
So you can find me on Instagram and also on YouTube as well. I post daily on both places unless I'm on holiday or something's gone wrong. So yes, they can find me there for daily inspiration. I post a lot of recipes on Instagram, more daily food on YouTube. I can be quite a chatty person, so some of my videos are a little bit chattier about like other stuff going on in my life. So yes, so people can find me there, and also they can check out my website if they're interested in any of my meal plans, or if they want to get into eating this way. And hopefully eventually I'll be able to help people do this like you do and like loads of other people do. I'd love to work with individuals to actually really, help them get them to that stage that they want to be in life. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy. This was so much fun.
It was. Thank you so much.
And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow when my guests are Rick and Teresa Starr. Have a happy 4th of July, everyone. Take care.